Hello everyone, I hope everyone is doing great. So welcome back to our channel. So today in this video we are going to talk about the interview questions that have been asked to 7 to 8 years of experience candidate, and this video is contributed by one of our subscriber friend. I mean the interview questions are contributed by one of our subscriber friend. So the topics that have been covered in this video, the interview questions on the topics. So basically Java 8, microservices, Spring Boot, REST, design patterns, and Docker. So let us quickly see the interview questions. So the first question: microservices disadvantages. The two personal experience, like if you feel any disadvantages that you have faced while using microservices. So these four are the things that I have faced. So it's up to you. You can argue on that as well. So these are the four things that I have faced, like more complicated than monolithic application. I feel like as microservices increases, it is tough to maintain, honestly, and to maintain the transactions and all synchronizations, it is tough with the microservices. And they are more expensive than monolithics to maintain a microservices to like the entire what I can say, the base, or like the infrastructure of microservices is really tough, and security threats, especially when there are multiple service calls involved. So you know, to maintain the security across all the things and all those things, and there is load balancing and network latency is also present. So these are my personal things that I have felt. So it may vary from person to person. So this is the next question. Consider that there are 10 microservices in your architecture. How will you secure the communication between microservice 1 and microservice 2, like etc. Like basically how we are going to establish the communication. So in our project we have used Saga. It really works well. So I would go with the Saga. Again, it differs from person to person. Your experience on microservice design patterns. So always like anytime if you face this kind of questions like on design patterns, always talk about, like my personal opinion, I always talk about the design patterns that I have worked on or I have hands-on experience. So aggregator, circuit breaker, and API gateway are these three things that I have hands-on experience. So these are the three design patterns that I would answer. Consider each microservice has an individual data source. I have a requirement to join the data from two data sources. How can I implement this? So honestly, this is a table, like microservice per table approach. So here there is no way we can join the tables. You need to make two service calls to get the data and join the data. Because this is the same thing we follow in our microservice architecture is application per database. So I don't see any way we can join the tables here. So if at all anyone knows, yeah, they can please comment out. The next question is component versus bin. So basically, at the red bin is used to explicitly declare a single bean rather than letting Spring do it automatically, and component is a class level annotation, and Spring automatically detects it. Bean can be created even outside the class by using at the red bean, but it is not possible with at the red controller, at the red component, sorry. Like at the red bin is a method level annotation, and at the red component, as I have already said, it's class level. And so you need, if you want to make use of at the red bin, then you need to initiate the class with at the red configuration. You know, these are the few things that I can say about component. And this, the next question is, how do you, what do you know about Spring transaction management, how to implement it? So basically transaction management is done to for acid, like atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. And it can be done in two ways, like programmatic or declarative way we can do. And there are two different transactions, like local and global. So you need to talk about all those things here. Have you worked about future and completable future? So this completely again depends on person to person. So I have worked on future, but I just know about completable future. So basically completable future classes can provide the functionality to chain multiple dependent tasks that run asynchronously. So that is the benefit that we get of completable future. CRUD repository versus JPA repository. So basically a JPA repository extends paging and sorting repository, which in turn extends CRUD repository. That means JPA repository indirectly implements CRUD repository. So basically JPA repository will have all the functions of CRUD repository as well as paging and sorting repository. So if you don't need the repository to have functions provided by JPA repository or paging and sorting repository, we can go with CRUD repository. Next is the coding question. So this is one of the interesting coding questions. Like there are a lot of cross questions that have been I believe that have been asked here. Like write an API to observe a list of students. Student will have name and age. Do post, put and sort the list by name and again sort it by age before sending it back. So this is the uh, code sample code. I don't that have been sent to us, and that again serializable difference, like long one, and what's the generated serialization UID. Will you face any issues if all the classes have the same serialization version ID? Yes, we have some issues with that as well. Why response entity comparator versus comparable, collection dot sort, multiple comparator, method reference, Java 8 lambda, put versus patch. So these are the cross questions that might have been asked here on the given piece of code. Next is containerization experience. So what we can say the containerization form of virtualization where applications run in a isolated user space. So that is the definition we can give, and we can talk about all the advantages we get using containerizations. Then the next question is Docker swarms. So honestly, I don't know what are Docker swarms because we use Kubernetes. So I hope there is some relation between these two, but like both ideally do the same thing, the orchestration that does. But I am not aware of Docker swarms. So the question was on Docker swarms as well. So the next question is Java bean mapping, BeanUtils, Dozer, and MapStruct. So which one is the better? Like in which scenario we'll go with? What would be the question? So it again depends upon the situation, honestly, like to go with what. The next question is non-singleton to singleton bean prototype inside singleton. So maybe the question might be asked here to write a code or in a scenario like how to convert a non-singleton to singleton bean and what will happen if a child in a singleton is having scope prototype. Then the question of SLF4J versus log4j. So honestly, I don't understand the difference to be like both work together. Like SLF4J removes the tight coupling between the application and logging frameworks. It makes it easy to replace with any other logging framework in future with more capable libraries. And log4j is the logging library. Then the design patterns, tell any four design and explain with your experience. So almost like whatever you have hands-on experience, you go with that thing and explain that. Spring dependency injection, like talk about all the things that you know about spring dependency injection, what will happen, how it starts, like what all the life cycle methods that gets executed, and have you implemented any life cycle methods or have you ever written any of the life cycle methods, in which scenarios you have done that. Spring boot profiles, so talk about the profiles in like basically how profiling is configured in spring boot and how to trigger profile specific configuration. Functional interfaces, so this is a Java 8 feature, like what advantage we are getting out of functional interfaces, we need to talk about that. And have we used, in which scenario we have used in our applications. If we haven't used, we should say that we haven't used that. What function inside predicate have you made use of other than is equal as being, like basically there are other methods as well like or and I remember these two, or and there are few others as well. Right now I'm also getting these two. There is one more called negate as well. So these are the three things that we can say. And honestly, in which scenario you have used, that would be the counter question as well. So map versus flat map. So in which scenarios to go with map and in which scenarios we go with flat map, like what actually flat map does. So it flattens the list of lists or maps of maps into single map or single list. About test driven development. So This was the, I believe, the last question that was asked about test driven development, how it is done, how it happens. And here if you see, this is the mail that we have received on 11th November 2021. So there has been delay from our side because we were occupied with our own things. So these are the same questions that we have shared. You can go through this, and there is a second part as well that we'll be sharing very soon with you. So these are the 22 questions that we have shared, and we'll share the second part as well as soon as possible. And thanks for watching. I hope this video has helped you